Well, About the Child continuing tonight, and we have another special guest that we'll be bringing on board here in just a minute. Before I do, let me tell you a little bit about Pastor Mary Shelnut. And she is a minister, and her ministry, I don't want to take any of her thunder away. So let me just bring Mary on board here and introduce you to her. She will be one of the speakers at tomorrow's conference and summit. And Mary, we want to talk a little bit, but don't tell everything because then they won't go to the summit.
All right.
You're focused in. Tell us a little bit about your ministry, Mary.
Well, I have preached on the streets for years and years. I've preached to the homeless. I have preached to the brokenhearted. I have preached to children, ministered to single moms, and I just love what God has called me to do. I mean, I love people. I come from a family of 10 children.
Is that all?
Yeah, I know. And, so I grew up in a home where I know what it's like not to have, but the most important thing about the home I grew up in, it was a home filled with love. My mother, she loved us, and she always made sure we went to church. She always made sure we prayed before we eat. And she was so strong about thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. Those two things you could not do in her house.
Well, my father actually lived through the Depression. And, of course, just having food was the thing. But he said that he always had plenty to eat. I said, really? He says, yes. Whenever I asked for seconds, his parents told him, no, you've had plenty. How long have you been involved in this street ministry, as you describe it?
Since 1998, and I've preached on the streets of Georgia. I've preached on the streets of Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina. Oh, you name it. Montgomery, Troy, Alabama, Eufaula, just all over. I have been on the streets. I've even been to Tallahassee a few times and ministered, and just taking the gospel, to those who are hungry and thirsty for God, and just letting people know that there is hope. No matter what the situation is, God loves you, and He's concerned about you, no matter where you are or what state you're in at that moment. God is so concerned about you, and so we've been on the streets, and we minister. And the most thing I love about being on the streets is something the Lord gave me to do years ago. Matter of fact, this was before '98. Actually, I was living in Georgia at the time, and there was this lady I used to go and have prayer meeting in her home, and she had a house that was right downtown Atlanta that it was vacant, and she donated this home. And she said, you can go in there and just minister and do whatever you want. And so I just began to pray. And God told me, I want you to take a table. And instead of I want you to put a table outside. And I want you to get hot dogs. And I just want you to feed people and minister the word to them. And I'm telling you, from that time to now, God just has blessed me to go out. And He sent me in places. What's amazing, Mark? He sent me into places that a lot of people don't want to go. I mean, places where you be like, oh, no, I'm not going up in there,
Kind of like Jesus did.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I would go and I would just go and preach the gospel.
Well, Mary, you're not the first minister that I've spoken with, both publicly here and in private conversations that go out and, preach, so to speak. And one of the challenges they face is, they need to be booked, and they need a church that will invite them in and pay their expenses and pay them an honorarium. And short of that, they really don't have much of a ministry. And of course, that's why I speak to them, is there are ways to minister electronically that, Yeah. But you don't have that problem when you want to go preach. You just literally hit the streets, don't you?
I literally go by faith. I mean, if I can hear God say do it, and I tell people all the time, see, the one thing you need is a word from God. And once you get that word and you hear God say, I want you to do this, He always made provision for it. And so many times in the beginning of my ministry, I used to be like, well, God, how am I going? He would tell me to do things. I was like, God, how am I going to do this? I don't have any money, Mm-hmm. But I would just start preparing and taking a step of faith. And when I would do that, God would always show up. he will always. I remember when we were in South Carolina, no, North Carolina. On this particular day, we had been ministering for 3 weeks out there. I mean, just there. Oh God! And so this particular day, God spoke to me. He said, "I want you to take a table and put it out there," because we was right on a corner where it was just a lot of homeless people, and we were right there on the corner ministering the word. And he said, "I want you to take this table and set it out, and I want you to dress it out like the president is coming to eat with you all today." So I got the most beautiful tablecloth. I put the American flag. I found the flag, and I put the American flag on the table, and I had a beautiful tablecloth, and I put candles on the table, and I just dressed that table just beautiful. And so near the end of the day, there was a lady that drove up on this big fine Mercedes. She drove up and she come out and she said, "I have been seeing you all out here. I've been seeing you guys out here." And she said, "I've been wanting to make a donation to you." And she said, "Well, who do I make the check?" It was so amazing because out of all the people out there, she walked up to me and started talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Well, who do I make the donations to?" And this lady wrote out a check for $500.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. So
Now let me ask you something, Mary.
Mhm.
If she would have asked you to say how much do you need, how much would you have said?
Lord, I don't know. I really don't know because I have been asked that question before. I have literally been asked that question. It's like I don't know. I'm a very remarkable person, and I just give what God put on their heart. I don't know to put a number, which maybe I need to kind of grow up from that, but.
Yeah.
She made this check out. But once particular time that we were in Enterprise, Mark, and this actually happened. Someone did ask me, there was this colonel, him and his wife came. They heard about our mission, and they came out of Fort Ricker to us and said that a year ago, God had told me and my wife to start saving some money. He said, "There's going to be this mission that you're going to have to do that." Who it was, they had no idea. But whenever they got stationed in Enterprise, they heard about Ground Zero Rescue Mission, and they found us. And they came, and he sat down and he said, "I have a check. I want to write a check out." And he said, "How much? How much do you want me to write?" Oh my goodness, Lord. But He's faithful. God is always faithful. And of course, they had saved up this money and things we needed at the mission. They bought brand new washers and dryers. They bought food. What do you call it? For all his men that are under him.
His subordinates, his staff.
His whole staff came out and they built bunk beds for the mission. So because we needed beds for the homeless, it was amazing that it was actually my church, and God told me, He says, "I want you to take the pews out of here, and I want you to make a home for the homeless," because there was nowhere for them to go. There was nowhere for the homeless to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally stepped out on faith again, and sure enough, God sent me people, and they built the bunk beds. They paid our bills up for 3 or 4 months. They just was just giving. And I tell people, whenever God gives you something, just like Bears and Lord Network, I know God is going to make provision. He's going to send the money for this to happen. It's already happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of that, and Mary, our connection is starting to fail a little bit. Okay. So we're probably going to have to wrap it up. I'd love to hear more. Because I bet you've got some real stories. But the good news is you're going to have more time than this tomorrow, and we are going to make an attempt to bring that live here. But we're not sure of the technical arrangements yet. So tomorrow afternoon, it's very possible that we'll be able to watch everything from right here. But anyway, you will be speaking at that conference, and we just want to wish all the Lord's blessings upon you and thank you for your ministry. And we want to find out more about it at the conference tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for having me. And I want to ask everybody to please remember Bears and Lord Network. Go and download the app. Go and get the app. And just tune in tomorrow to us. We would love to have you with us.
All right. Thanks again.